Over the past 75 years, more than 10,000 chemicals have entered our food supply, but the EU allows just 300 additives. At Thrive Market, we prioritize quality, banning over 1,000 ingredients found in conventional grocery stores. Our Healthy Swap scanner helps you find better versions of your pantry essentials without the junk, dyes, or fillers, and everything is delivered right to your doorstep. So shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health at thrivemarket.com/get started for 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift.
Weight loss. It needs to be fast and sustainable. Noom GLP-1 starts at just $149 and ships to your door in 7 days. Take it from Marcos, who's loving his journey with Noom GLP-1.
I'm getting to where I want to be. I'm in such a good place right now, and I'm very confident that I'm going to be able to continue this weight loss, this journey, and really make a true lifestyle change.
Don't believe it? Take it from Cam, who's gaining more confidence with Noom GLP-1.
I really am starting to feel better. Like, I feel a lot lighter. I feel a lot happier. I feel a lot more confident. I just feel a lot more like myself. I don't feel so bogged down every day.
$149 GLP-1s? Now that's Noom Smart. Noom, the smart way to lose weight. Get started with Noom GLP-1 at Noom.com. That's Noom.com. Real Noom users compensated to provide their story. Individual results may vary. Not all customers will medically qualify for prescription medications. Compounded medications are not reviewed by the FDA for safety, efficacy, or quality.
Well, hello, everyone. It's your girl, Gabrielle. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. This is a show where we like to have that real talk. We like to take those things that are in the back of your mind or in the cockles of your mind, and we like to bring those things to the front. We tend to focus on things in education, employment, mental health, physical health, social services, families, all that good stuff. We tend to focus in that arena. And all of that is for the purpose of education and having that open dialogue and having those uncomfortable conversations. This is the show for that. This is not celebrity gossip, Hot Topics. This is uncomfortable conversation, education, learning, Hot Topics. I am excited today because I have a guest with me who is going to help me facilitate this episode, and I look forward to talking to him. So first, what's the name of this episode? Let me tell you what the name of this episode is. So the name of this episode is called Resiliency, right? So this is the story of resilience and how to be resilient. We are going to talk about resiliency today, and I have a guest who is going to help me out with this. His name is Kellan Fluckiger. I hope I'm saying his name right. Let me just double check. Fluckiger. Okay, double checking. Kellan Fluckiger, and I am going to tell you about him. So let's get right into it. Who is Kellan Fluckiger? Let me tell you who he is. Coming through decades of depression, addictions, life-threatening illness, and a near-death experience, Kellan has become the ultimate catalyst to help motivated people melt barriers, move mountains, and mobilize superpowers to achieve their true desires. Awesome. And just want to make a quick plug that he has a podcast called Your Ultimate Life with Kellan Fluckiger. The website for the podcast is your-life-by-Kellan-Fluckiger.simplecast.com/episodes. That is a very long name, but all this will be in the description in case you missed all that. But please check out his podcast, right? And he is a writer. He has many books on Amazon. So if you we'll talk about that later, but he has a multiple of books that he wrote, and they are all on Amazon.com. For those of you watching this on video, it is at the bottom of your screen. And for those of you listening on audio, don't you worry, this will be in the description. Just want to make that quick plug that he also has many books. All right, without further ado, I'm going to bring Kellan to the stage. Hi, Kellan, how are you doing today?
I'm just fantastic. And before we even start, I just want to, on your own show, honor you for the work that you're doing. I listened to your introduction about difficult topics and talking about things that are sometimes hard. And that's important. It's important that we do it. We've had COVID, we've had all that stuff. And I know how much work podcasting is, and especially with video and everything else. So I just want to honor you for the effort that you're making to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that honor. I will take it. All right. So, Kellan, you have an amazing story about resiliency. We're here to teach people about resiliency, and you are the epitome of resiliency, and I want you to share your story. So I'm going to hand over the baton, and I'm going to let you just go ahead.
All right. Well, I'll take the talking stick. Yay. Resiliency, it is, the ability to bounce back from things that are hard or that are unexpected. You get knocked down, you stand up. That's kind of what resiliency is. And I didn't ever intend to be the poster child for that. I didn't start out life or at any point say, I'd like to have all kinds of crap happen to me so that I can figure out how to be resilient. It just sort of developed that way. And I share that because there's nothing particularly interesting about this process, meaning I'm nobody special. If I can do this kind of recovery that I'm going to describe and be resilient in these ways, you can too. And that's what's most important, because my story is going to be whatever it is. What's important to you is your story, where you are, what you're struggling with, and that feeling that you're alone, nobody understands, and there's nothing you can do about it. And oh no, I'm here to tell you there is opportunity and possibility for you to be resilient. My story started when I was young. I was a kid, and I grew up in what looked like a typical two-parent household. And it was anything but typical. My mom got married really young, and she had I'd say fanatic, but fanatic devotion to a particular religious kind of thing. And she enforced it all with discipline that today would be felony child abuse. I got beat regularly and all the way through my childhood. And I even remember in high school getting dressed for PE, physical education, last in the locker room because I didn't want anybody to see I was black and blue. And so I would get dressed last because I was so ashamed of being so awful that I deserved, to be black and blue. What that did is I left home at 17, convinced that I was no good, convinced that no matter what I did, I wasn't good enough. And at the same time, I had this weird countervailing need to prove to my mom that I was okay, because of course she must be right, because religion and God, she must have God on her side, so I must really suck. And that's kind of this sort of opposing views that I had. I'm not okay, but I have to prove that I am. What that led me to do, I never talked to anyone. So that's the first mistake I made, was keeping all of that inside. I never shared my struggles, my feelings of inadequacy, effectively my depression, for decades, literally decades. So for 35 years, from 17 to 52, I can summarize that whole period of life by saying I lived on a roller coaster of creating success and then trashing it. So I created financial success, got a good job, made good money, and then wrecked it by doing something stupid. Then I would create success again and wreck it. And I did that several times. And the funny thing, sad thing, I guess, is that each version of that got higher and higher, meaning more success, more money, and then bigger crashes. I also did that with relationships. So I got married and divorced 3 times. And I certainly wasn't a good partner. I never set out to do that. In fact, I had committed I was going to be a great partner and a great dad and all that, and failed at most of it. So by the time I was 52, that 35 years had passed. I had been in and out of rehab. I'd been addicted on and off to different substances. I had made so much money that all of the addictions that I was subject to didn't matter. I never got caught, but my life was a wreck. So behind me, I had this sort of battlefield, and there was no reason or hope for me to change. Now, in that circumstance or yours, there's always opportunity to change. I just ignored it all those years. I knew I should do something different, but I never got the help. I never went to get help. I never talked to anyone, and that just sort of repeated itself. Finally, at age 52, a very dramatic thing happened that, again, was an invitation to change, and this time I accepted it. So what happened was in August of 2007, which is 15 years ago next month, I was at the pinnacle of my career. I was making a lot of money, ridiculous amounts of money. I had like 6 cars and stupid stuff, right? More money than you need. And I had 4 kids. I was single again for the 3rd time. I had 4 kids living with me who were all teenagers. I had 10 total. I know that sounds unbelievable, but they were all mine. 3 of them were grown up and married. 4 were living with me and 3 were living with, it's embarrassing to say, but one of my ex-wives. And that was the situation. I was an addict. I was using $3,000 a week cocaine, and I was a total personal wreck. In August of 2007, I came home from work on a Friday, and I was going to go out and party for the weekend because that's what I always did. And for some reason, I had this sense, this urgency to turn on the TV. Now, that doesn't sound like anything, except I didn't watch TV. I had the biggest stuff you could buy installed, because that's stuff you do when you have more money than you know what to do with. Kind of stupid. But I picked up the remote and I'm like, ooh, I don't know how to turn this on. So I had to ask one of the kids. My 16-year-old daughter came in and punched some buttons and threw the remote at me and left the room. And it landed on a program I'd never heard of, which is not weird because I'd never heard of much. The name of the program was Intervention. Now, Intervention, for those that don't know, is a reality TV show about families who stage professional interventions for busted loved ones. And I watched about 10 minutes of this program, and the protagonist was a high-ranking executive with a cocaine problem. So I'm watching my own story on TV, and I said, well, I'm not going to watch this crap. So I turned it off, walked around the house, did some other stuff, did the dishes and a few things, and got ready to go out. And then I felt absolutely compelled to turn on the TV. So I did, and this time I knew how. And the program I'd been watching started over. And no, I didn't have a recording device, and no, it wasn't on the schedule, and no, it can't do that. I understand that, but it did anyway. And it freaked me out. I'm like, holy cow, I guess I should watch this. So I watched it, and it went badly. The guy yelled at his family and swore he had no problem and stomped out, and it ended. And it freaked me out enough that I didn't go out. I went to bed instead. When I went to bed, I went to hell. And what I mean by that is I went somewhere. It felt like I was out of body in a theater. It was dark, and there was no voices and a stage. And the scenes on the stage were of my life, and they were slow. It wasn't like flashing before my eyes. Every scene was focused on suffering, the suffering that I had experienced as a kid with all the beatings and other kinds of abuse, up to and including all the suffering I had inflicted on everybody else as an addict and a failed partner and everything else. After a long period of time of really intense suffering, experiencing this whole drama, I heard a voice, and a voice said, "It is enough." And I woke up, and the sun was shining in the window, which was weird because the window faced west. And I got up and realized it was 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon. So I'd been somewhere for nearly 18 hours. And I realized, well, I've been invited to change. I have no idea what to do. I have no idea how to do this. I have no idea how to start this journey of resilience to bounce back from this horrific mess that I'd created. But I knew I was going to do something. So I quit all substances that day. I threw away $1,000 worth of stuff I had laying around and I quit cold turkey. And that experience gave me the courage to get sober, like right now. But it didn't do anything about how I got there, which was complete isolation and feeling not good enough and all the rest. And the depression I dealt with all my life. That was the second part of the invitation, and that happened 2 weeks later. So I went back to work on Monday, and I got, because of the position I had, I used to get free stuff. So you think of CEO of this or that company, people give them stuff, not as bribes, but just gifts. I used to get free concert tickets and free expensive bottles of booze, like I needed that. But anyway, I got a pair of tickets to see a classical concert put on by Yo-Yo Ma. Now, if you know classical music, you know who that is. And if you don't, that's fine. But in the classical world, that's, he's best in the world, etc. So I was really excited, but I didn't want to waste this other ticket because I didn't have anybody to take. And so I asked in the groups that I managed who likes classical music, and some lady in one of the groups said, well, I do. And I said, have I ever given you anything before? Because I gave away stuff all the time. And she said, no. I said, okay, fine, we'll see you there. So I gave her the ticket. We met at the venue, and the concert was spectacular. And halfway through, now you got to remember, I'm 2 weeks stone cold sober at this point. And halfway through the concert, I had this feeling, it felt like 2 weeks before, and a voice said in my head, you need to marry this woman. And I sort of cringed and said, you're insane. So I've screwed that up 3 times officially and some other messes in between. That's just not happening. Wires crossed or something. So later that night, we were backstage because they were also backstage passes. And the voice came back and said, and you need to tell her tonight. And I freaked out. I argued, I can't do that. I don't even know if she has a boyfriend. And besides that, she works in one of my groups. She can have me arrested for harassment and stuff. But you don't win those arguments. So I did, and it went about like you would have imagined. She thought I was crazy, and what are you talking about? But she didn't call the cops, and that was the good part. And she went home after that. And over the next 2 weeks, she had her own set of experiences. And after 2 more weeks, so 2 weeks from the concert, she resigned her position. I walked away from millions of dollars of contracts to just change my whole life. And we sort of walked off into the sunset together. And about 6 months ago, we celebrated our 14th wedding anniversary. As amazing as that story is from a sort of romantic perspective, the real thing for me was that she was literally the invitation, the angel that was sent to help me be resilient, to get over depression, to learn how to tell the truth, to learn how to have a friend, to learn how to be a friend. All the things that in my 52 years of life, I'd never learned to do. And she decided that's what she was going to do. And I've asked her a whole bunch of times since then, like, what on earth possessed you to quit your job? She had a great career and walk off into the sunset with a drug addict. Everybody in the office knew. I mean, they didn't know, but they knew, right? And she said, I just knew to the core of my soul it was the right thing to do. So those 2 events together, right, one right after the other within a few days of each other, were the invitation that allowed me to make the choice to stop doing what I was doing, to become vulnerable, to get the help I needed, to start to talk to people, to tell the truth, to stop hiding, and to begin a journey of recovery, of resilience and growth. And since that time, I've completely walked away from that industry. I started life over. I have created a coaching practice now, and that's what I do. I'm a life coach and business coach, and I have clients around the world. And the reason I picked that is receiving the opportunity, the invitation, even though I had to do all the work, like nothing was magically cured, but it was a strong enough slap with a big enough 2x4 to have an invitation to change, to explore a new way of life, and to say, I'm done with that. I don't know where I'm going and I don't know how to do it, but I'm going in a new direction. So since that time, I've dedicated all my work, and it's the only thing I do, to helping people who want to change their lives in an upward direction, in a powerful way. The way I describe it is end addiction to mediocrity, end addiction to just settling for what's obvious and easy. And that's what I've been doing for the last 15 years. It'll be 15 years next month. And in the process, as Gabrielle mentioned, I've written a bunch of books, 16 books, and, speak on stages and all that sort of thing. But it's all in service of helping people make the kinds of changes in their lives that they want to. They don't have to be addicts. They just have to be someone who yearns to have a joyful, I call it the ultimate life, which is why my podcast is named that. To get rid of the barriers and the nonsense we believe, and believe in yourself, bet on yourself, trust your intuition, and to move forward with the idea that you are important and that our biggest opportunity is to add good to the world. And I use that phrase because, we all add carbon dioxide just by being alive. But what else do we add to the world? Positivity, negativity, help, complaining. Are we owners of life? Are we victims? You know what I mean? And so that's what I chose to become, is I call coaching the people encouragement business, because there's so much encouragement needed. There's plenty of struggle. There's plenty of negative things. Being a coach and helping people who want to grow and to expand and are willing to do the work is the most fulfilling work that I've ever done. Far more fun and better than all that other stuff I did for 30 years in that other career. So that's the story of how I went from sort of busted to healthy, or becoming healthy. And the work was tremendous. I mean, Joy and I had to spend, I didn't tell you the funny part. And my wife's name is Joy. Like, you can't make this up, right? And she has been and become my business partner. She does all of our computer stuff and runs our contractors and does, the funnels that you have online when you do internet marketing and all that stuff. And so she's a full-on life partner and business partner. And the way I think about it was the angel who came and gave me the invitation to make a sudden and complete about-face and walk away at 52 from my entire old life and start all over again. The reason I've shared all this is because if there was ever a person who was a candidate to be sort of left at the bottom of the canyon, it was me. The battleground behind me was a wreck. The wrecked relationships, the angry and frustrated divorces, just a pile of negativity would fill a book. In fact, it did. I wrote a book, Tightrope of Depression, my journey from darkness, despair, and death to light, love, and life, and told the whole story in much more detail. So it does fill a book. And if I am worthy of an invitation, then so are you. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what's happened before. You and I both, we each have our hands on the controls of our lives. And if you want to do the work, get the help, make the changes, about face, whatever's required, you can have what you want. You can get up one more time, no matter how many times you've fallen. And resilience is a learned and practiced characteristic. It's not given. It's not automatic. It is something we learn to do. It's something we choose to do because we simply refuse to give up. We refuse to let someone else or some other circumstance determine our lives. We're going to do that for ourselves. So that's the story. Should I continue, or do you want to jump in and ask some questions?
I will jump in. So I listened to your story, and it sounds you went on a roller coaster, right? You grew up in an abusive home, and then you became a drug addict, married and divorced 3 times. Sounds like you may not have a strong relationship with your kids, so you went through all of that, and you had all this money, you didn't know what to do with it. Um, so it sounds like you went through a lot. So it's multiple transitions that you went through before you reach that pot of gold at the end of the tunnel, right? With your wife. So tell me, as you look back over your life, how do you feel about all of these events that you went through?
So I get asked a lot. Thanks for asking me that, Gabrielle. And yeah, it was a circus. And yes, the 10 kids, some of them still don't talk to me. There's lots of opportunity there. But here's something I want to share with you and with your listeners. I used to spend a lot of time and emotional anguish feeling guilty about the ruined relationships, feeling guilty and terrible that some of the kids are estranged, don't talk to me even to this day yet, and conveniently blame all the problems in their lives on what a jerk I was and all the rest. And I used to let that just wreck me. My fault, if I'd only this, if I'd only that, if only this and that. And of course, when they were in struggles, they would join in, and, a lot of verbal abuse and blaming and negativity. What I learned is that doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve them because it doesn't allow them to take responsibility and create their own life like I finally did. Nobody came to my rescue. I didn't have any scapegoat. I mean, I could have yelled and blamed my mom or other things, but none of that fixes anything. So I finally realized I needed to do whatever I could to make things right. And I did, apologies and all that sort of thing. But after that, I needed to forgive myself. And that doesn't mean pretend things didn't happen. That doesn't mean, oh, no big deal. It means sincerely do what you can do and then let it go. Because continuing to hold on to that, whether you did something to someone like I did by being a bad dad and my addictions and everything else, or whether someone did something to you, holding on to that anger or justice or guilt and shame, all that does is limit you today. Some people have said holding a grudge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. It never happens. And all that it does is make you sick or me sick. And it did. It drove me nuts until I finally took advantage of the opportunity to forgive myself, forgive my mom, forgive everybody, everything, because then I am free. So forgiveness is simply a choice to let everything go so that the events of the past have no more power in the present. All that happened when I held on to stuff is it limited my ability to do good. Now that I've let all of that go, I don't hide anything. I've told the stories and apologized and done all the things that I can do. And now I can live completely free and clear in my love and effort to help everybody I can, completely open to future possibilities for reunification and all those things. And you know what I know in my heart? There will come a day, but it won't be at my choosing. It'll be when each of them individually make a choice that they no longer want to carry negative things in their lives because they want to be free. And I can't force that or drive it. So I get asked a lot, Kellan, given all the battlefield and all the wreck, what would you change if you could go back? And the answer is nothing. Nothing, because the pain and the misery and the suffering and the sorrow have made me who I am, have given me patience that I never had, has allowed me to love in a way that I was never able to, have taught me the meaning of suffering, not because I need to have any more, but it lets me be empathetic and encouraging in powerful ways as a coach. So did I sort of answer your question?
You did. And you brought up a key point is that, yeah, your children may not some of your children may not want to talk to you. It sounds like they're still harboring anger towards you, but you have to start with yourself and reflecting on your childhood. You have to forgive, make peace with it in a way, and you have to deal with your own battles first before you can deal with other people's battles. And that's one of the key points of resiliency. Did I get that?
You got that exactly right. And it's interesting because I've written a lot of books and every one of them has come out of my own experience. Like I didn't write any books about something over there. I wrote from my own learnings. And in what you just said, I just published, it'll be out in about 2 weeks, a book titled Forgiveness, A Journey of Courage to a Place of Freedom and Power. And in my mind, in my experience, the most powerful word in the language is love. The second one right behind it is forgiveness. And those two words open an infinite field of opportunity. And needing to forgive everyone, everything. And people cringe when I say that, but I just say forgive everybody, everything. I don't care what it is. For two reasons. One, it's not in my purview to demand or extract justice for some injustice that I see, whether it's to me or anyone else. I mean, we hear people say, oh, they should be tarred and feathered and dragged in the street and nothing would be enough. Well, we say those kinds of vicious things out of emotional pain. And I've certainly felt that way. But at the end of the day, somebody said that about me too. So if everybody extracted that kind of, quote, justice on everybody else, everybody'd be dead anyway. We are not the ones to make those judgments. And I just prefer and believe it's the right thing to do to just let the karma, the divine, take care of those things in a larger sort of scheme of things. And so I have chosen, and I say it every day, I forgive everyone, everything. I hold no anger, bitterness, or judgment toward anyone for anything, including myself. And from that place, I feel completely liberated, and nothing on any day weighs me down. And that might sound incredible, and it didn't happen overnight, but it is a true thing that is my experience today.
So if you can go back in time and talk to your 12-year-old self, what would you say?
If I could talk to my 12-year-old self, I would encourage to trust my intuition. I looked outside as a kid, little kid, you have to do that because you're dependent. But even when you start to be in the teens and young adulthood, I, in an unhealthy way, looked for approval from outside. Everything was to make, in my case, my mom happy, but it couldn't be anyone, a teacher, a priest, a dad, mom, uncle, friends. But it's somebody else. Somebody has to tell me I'm okay, because somehow we don't believe it or we don't internalize it unless it comes from outside. So I would do two things. Number one, I would encourage him with all my heart to love himself because self-loathing was my real addiction. The drug didn't matter. You get ask all the time in rehab, what's your drug of choice? And I used to answer with, usually it was cocaine, but it didn't matter what it was. My real drug of choice was self-loathing. I needed to hate myself, and the substance was irrelevant. So I would say two things. One, love yourself. Learn to love yourself unconditionally. And if you want to make changes and improve this, that's fine. But love yourself. And number two, trust your intuition, your inner feelings. If I had learned those lessons earlier, things would have been way different, and they would have been. And they aren't. And so I love where I am now, but it's come at the cost of a lot of blood on the floor.
And unfortunately, that has to happen sometimes. You have to cut yourself before you can heal, So I think, before any healing begins, you have to get hurt. And I think that is the unfortunate truth about personal growth and resiliency and being strong personally, is you have to be aware that there is pain. You have to be aware that you will be hurt, and that comes before personal growth and strength. So all that you've been through, you had to, as the commoners, I don't want to say commoners, it's a common phrase of, you have to hit rock bottom. And even when you said you went to hell, like, that's how bad things got for you, is that you had to go to hell. And so you went through that in order to change. So the fact that you went to hell first before changing, it's sort of, as opposed to just changing, that's the unfortunate truth about overcoming obstacles and resiliency, is that you have to get burned before you can get better. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you, but I'm going to give it a little different spin. I'm spiritual. I have experiences with the divine intervention, and I have another thing. I died just 4 years ago, and that's a whole other experience. I had a near-death experience. But here's the point. What you said is exactly right. We have to hit rock bottom, or hit a wall, or, cut ourselves, however you want to phrase it. But I don't think the divine, the creator, was stupid. I think it's designed that way. I don't think this life, I read an article once that said at any given time, more than 50% of the people in general are going through something really hard. Not small, not trivial, but really hard. So that means most of the people around you are really struggling with something. Now, I can't imagine that the creator was such a novice that he had no idea how to create a life that didn't do that unless it was on purpose. So it seems to me that the purpose of this life is to learn from our own experience, and then choose, if we want to grow, to become resilient, and to take advantage of the resources to become more developed, more kind, more gentle, more patient, more loving creatures. And so I totally agree, we have to hit that. And I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was designed that way. And so as much as I sometimes might have wanted to scream at the heavens, why is this, why is that? At the end of the day, at least where I am now, it seems like life was designed to have hard things happen. I don't mean that I was going to go this terrible route no matter what else I did. I think we all choose our own misery, but that it's designed into the experience so that we can become resilient, more compassionate, more loving, and better people through those experiences. And I think you can't get that kind of deep development in any other way. You can't just do it without the pain.
Absolutely. And, and on that spiritual sense, when things like, um, what I see happen a lot is with school shootings, when they happen, people want to say, or bombings, um, people want to cry out to God, like, God, why do you let these things happen? And um, I think that my personal belief is that He allows these things to happen, um, because it's some it's the catalyst for something better, right? So, and also we have to be aware of our own wrongdoing. So being aware of our own wrongdoings, that's one. And two, it's a catalyst for something better. So something like, because of the school shootings, now there's this push for, gun control and gun reform. So, because of something traumatic that happened, it's the push for greater things among all of us.
You
So,
know, there's a thought I have right there with that, and that is, I think you're right. I think that the best change is internal. So we have these terrible things happen, and people suffer. And if this 70 or 80 years, or 7 years or 9 years, when children get hurt or killed, if that's all there was, then it would be impossibly unfair, and there would be no explanation for it. But if we remember that this life here is just this tiny dot in a much larger picture, then it's less difficult. And it's not that we're not sad that those things happen, but they're not gone. But I think the biggest I agree with what you said, and I'm wondering if the biggest change isn't. I agree with the externalities, like better safety, better gun control, more sensible things. But what about, and maybe I'm just being hopeful, what about parents who say, look what that kid did. I wonder if I'm neglecting things. Holy crap, I wonder if I'm paying attention like I ought to. And the whole myriad of personal questions that individuals who either see it or who are participating, peripherally, not necessarily one of the victim's parents, but others who say, you know what? Maybe I'm not paying enough attention to my kids, my circumstance, my this or that. And the sorrow, the collective sadness that we feel also, at least in me, spawns a yearning for me to examine my own life and say, am I neglecting something important that isn't this, but anything else? And so there's a whole pile of external things that might change, which you listed some of them, and those are good. And I'm also hoping at least, that there's a pile of internal things that people look at in their lives, because broken people do sad, hurtful, cruel things. And it is only awareness, choice to act, noticing something is broken is the first step to changing it, and then choosing to act. And maybe these things also function as catalysts to help people look at their own lives and say, what am I missing here?
absolutely, I'm glad you brought that up, that, and again, you brought up another key point, is that because of these traumatic things that are happening in the country, it's making parents look at themselves and say, what can I do to prevent the next school shooter? And I didn't mean to deviate here, but listen, I'm going for it. So and all that we learn about school shootings, about it's the kid that's being bullied, who's being abused at home, who's being neglected, who's struggling in school because of a disability and no one's attending to it, and school's overcrowded, and so all these things that's happening, and it just explodes. And of course, getting a gun is easy, which adds to that. So all that, it makes us look back, and because when we compare the school shootings, we look at the shooter and we compare their behavioral profile, and we notice these things in common, that it's men between the ages of 16 and 25. They're bullied, they're loners, they're angry, they're abused at home, and it's all these things that are being brought to light, and it forces parents, I think, to look at that and say, what am I doing? What do I need to do for my son to prevent the next school shooter? And even in, I remember in one of my Sunday school um, lessons, after the Uvalde school shooting, we had the difficult discussion with the kids about what happened. And one of the things that we brought up was, listen, if you ever feel angry, if you are upset about something, don't hold it in, talk to somebody about it. So we had to stress, mental health. We had to stress, like, don't hold it all in, talk to somebody about it, talk to a parent, talk to a counselor, talk to somebody, don't hold it in, because then you'll just explode and go get a gun, or you'll explode and get a knife and stab somebody. So all that, just to bring it all back, I feel that these things are meant to happen because there is something that we're neglecting, and we keep neglecting it, and then it's one thing after another, and then it just explodes. And so it's forcing us to it's forcing parents to look at how they address their sons, and how they address their children, and what they need to do to improve the way that they raise their children.
I'm glad that you brought that up. And I think it's fine, and I don't think it's off topic at all. The divine, I don't think, causes those things. They allow our own stupidity to take its course, just like happened in my life. And that neglected child or multiple neglects, all those things go to those places. And hopefully when those horrible things, which are the natural consequences of our neglect, play out, it does wake us up, and then we take some other steps besides, because you can't pass enough laws to fix the lack of love. You can't pass enough laws to fix the lack of real attention and a place to talk. I didn't talk to anybody. I kept it all inside, and I exploded. I didn't do it in that way. I hated myself enough to drown myself in substances until, I actually attempted suicide twice. So it does exactly what you said. And I did keep it all inside. And our cultural thing that says, well, we're not supposed to talk, or especially men, blah, blah, blah. It's just so wrong. And it builds this kind of anti-resilience until you heap it on yourself, until you collapse under the weight of all of it. And so 2 things I would note in agreeing completely with what you said is, don't hesitate in any sense to get help. Right this minute, talk to somebody, talk about your feelings. I don't care what somebody thinks. We have this disease, I call it WITOT, WITOT, and it stands for what I think others think. And we're so worried about what somebody's going to think or say about us. Who cares? Like, go get the help you need. Talk to somebody. I just completely agree. And the second point I wanted to make is it's never too late. I don't care where you've been or how late it is in your life. I was 52 before I finally woke up, and you might be 35 or you might be 62. Who cares? Start today, because today, no matter what's come before, you can start in a new direction.
Fabulous. And on that note, all right, I'm going to start to wind things down. So do you have any final words of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I do. And I don't know that they're words of wisdom, but it's this. Each one of you are an intentional divine creation. We didn't talk about the near-death experience that I had, and we didn't have time, and that's fine. But I can tell you for absolute certain, nobody's here by accident. Each of us chose to come. Each of us have divine gifts. We have a mission, we have a purpose, and you're infinitely valuable. So the idea that you're somehow nobody is not true. So I would tell you that and reassure you that. And the other thing is, you have the opportunity to add good to the world, to create something out of yourself if you want to. And I would encourage you with all my heart. I don't care where you've been. Like, make a choice today to pivot, to turn a corner, to start the upward trajectory. It doesn't have to be all at once. It doesn't have to be at this steep angle. If you got 1% better today, if you took 1% more responsibility for just one thing, just 1%, and you did that every day in 100 days, that's only 3 months, you'd be 100% better at taking 1% more responsibility for doing your homework or your assignments at work, or taking control of your life, or improving your relationship, or anything. Just 1%. It's not a big assignment, and it accumulates fast. And the other thing I would say is the same thing I would have said to my 12-year-old self. It's really important to love yourself. I don't care what's happened before. You're valuable and you're worth loving. So love yourself. You have permission, to the extent I need to give it to you, or anyone does. Love yourself furiously. And I don't mean self-indulgence. Love yourself as a divine being and take good care of you. You're valuable and you're important.
Wonderful. That is such great advice. And thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for coming on the show. All right, so it's promo time. All right, so Kellan Fluckiger, he is all over that social media, you guys. So his website is www.kellanfluckiger.com. He's also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn. He is everywhere, you guys. So I encourage you to go to all of his accounts and follow him on every single one of those accounts. So it's at the bottom of your screen right now if you are watching this. And if you are listening on audio, just check it all out in the description. But I encourage you to go to all of his social media accounts and follow him. So again, that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So check him out on all of those platforms. And again, his website is www.kellanfluckiger.com. And I also want to make sure that I shout out his podcast called Your Ultimate Life with Kellan Fluckiger. Can you tell us about your podcast a little bit?
I can, and I just have to love you for working so hard to say my name right. People ask about finding me, and one of the fun things I get to say is, with a name like Kellan Fluckiger, I can't hide, right? The only reason people don't find me is because they spell my name wrong, because there's only 2 Kellan Fluckigers in the world, and the other one's my son. So the podcast it has a fun story. At the beginning of the pandemic, March of 2020, when things were just starting to go crazy and lockdowns were first starting, and cases were exploding and everybody was a little worried, and maybe somebody for 5 minutes thought this was Armageddon. Oh no, the world's ending or something. We're all going to die from whatever this new fungus is. So somebody called my wife, Joy, my business partner, who knew that I did speaking, and said, does Kellan have a podcast? Because he was looking for something to, motivational, whatever. And we didn't. But she said, yes. So she came downstairs and said, we have a podcast. And so I started Your Ultimate Life. And I define that as a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy that you create by serving with your divine gifts. So that's how it started. I did it daily for 2 years almost. And then I decided about 6 weeks ago to go to it twice a week. Not because I can't do it every day, because I did, but I wanted to have the episodes a little longer. Daily, they were short, like 15. Twice a week, they're about a half an hour. But it turned out that I had just so many episodes that it was hard to, promote them and do the kinds of marketing that I ought to do. And I'm going to try twice a week for a year and see how that goes. So Your Ultimate Life, it's on all the regular podcast places. It's free. It's everything that I know everything that I know about building a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy.
Fabulous, fabulous. So check out his podcast, Your Ultimate Life with Kellan Fluckiger. It is, I have to take my time saying your name. You could check out his podcast wherever there are podcasts. So please check that out. Actually, I'm just going to go back and just shout out your social media again. So on Facebook, it is Coach Kellan Fluckiger. On Instagram is Kellan.Fluckiger. On Twitter is Kellan Fluckiger, all one word. YouTube, well, that's really long. Check that out in the description. And LinkedIn is just his name, Kellan Fluckiger. So, well, your YouTube channel is just your name, right?
Yes, it is. I actually have a couple of them. The one that is connected to this is called Ultimate Life Formula. And as you notice, Ultimate Life is the real focus of everything that I do. And I also have a website, yourultimatelife.ca, which is where I have also resources and materials to help people create that life they love.
So you have 2 YouTube accounts.
I do, and 2 websites and lots of stuff, but you can find them all just by going to my one website, kellanfluckiger.com.
All right, there you go. There you have it, you guys. All right, and lastly, it looks like we're going to go overtime a little bit, but that's okay. And I want to make sure that we plug in your many, many books. All of your books are on Amazon. So tell us, well, if you could summarize all of your books, what
I wrote 5 books about meditation because it's the most important skill that I've ever learned to balance my life and to get sober and productive. So meditation. I wrote 2 books about my own journey, Tightrope of Depression and then Down from the Gallows. There's a 3rd book in that trilogy that'll be out next year. I wrote 3 books about my near-death experience. One's called Meeting God at the Door, Conversations, Choices, and Commitments of a Near-Death Experience. That happened 4 years ago in June, so just a little over 4 years ago. And then I wrote a business book called The Results Equation. And then I wrote a book about how to write books because I figured out after I wrote a bunch that I had a good system, and it's called The Story Arc. So every one of them is designed to help people find their voice, express themselves, develop the resiliency that you're talking about, love themselves, and add good to the world. So that's every one of them is about that.
And I know I already said it, but where can we get your books?
Amazon. They're all on Amazon. So amazon.anything.ca.com. And all you have to do is put my name there. There's books, there's music. I own a recording studio. I wrote albums for some of the books and told stories out of the Tightrope book and all kinds of stuff. So I'm all over the place if you want to find me.
All right. And is it like paperback? Is it ebooks?
They're paperback and hardback. They're not on Audible yet. I'm going to do them there. It just has taken me a while to do it, and I'm going to narrate them. So they're not on Audible yet, and I get asked that all the time, why not? And the answer is I just haven't got there yet. But they're all paperback, hardback, regular books on Amazon.
All right. Beautiful. All right. Kellan, thank you, Kellan, for joining me today.
You are just delightfully welcome. And again, I want to end with honoring the effort that you're putting into lifting and blessing people's lives.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was definitely enlightening. And we got to have a part 2 somewhere. We got to do this again.
All right.
All right. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to place you off camera now. And you guys, it is just you and me. I know we're over time, but we're just going to this conversation was just so interesting. I just had to, keep going. But anywho, we have reached the conclusion of our episode. Oh, wait, I forgot my banner. Give me one second. I forgot my banner. All right. So we have reached the conclusion of our episode, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know it's so sad, but we have to wrap it up. We have to go. So whatever platform that you are taking this show in, whether it is on video or whether it is audio, whatever platform that you are that you are embracing hot topics, I ask you to please check out our other episodes and don't forget to follow and subscribe. And while you're at it, please let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section or in the comment thread. I would love to hear your feedback. As a reminder, this podcast is a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you would like to learn more about our company, the things that we have to offer, what we're all about, maybe you're looking for a tutor for your own child or even for you, because we serve adults as well, please visit us online. Our website is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com, and we are all over that social media as well. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Eventbrite, WhatsApp. We are all over the place, so please check out our social media as well. But definitely go to our website, www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. And I want to make sure I plug this in, that if you mention, when you reach out to us and you mention that you heard about us from Hot Topics, we will give you 15% off 6 hours of tutoring. I'm going to repeat that again. When you reach out to us and you say, hey, I heard about you from that Hot Topic show, we will give you 15% off 6 hours of tutoring. So there is no excuse for you not to seek tutoring, let alone our services. So I definitely encourage you to do that. And I also want to make sure that I plug in our email list and our texting list. You will receive exclusive offers, discounts, promotions, everything that is A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. I encourage you to sign up for our email list and our texting list. That information is in the description. For our audio people and our video people, it is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen. So I encourage you to sign up for our email list and our texting list. I encourage you to sign up for both of those things. All right, and I'm going to share this final message before I officially close.
Hey there, have you heard of us? We're a small team of tutors here at A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We believe that education and information should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income, race, or creed. We're dedicated to making this happen, but we need your help. Please consider making a donation to our company. No amount is too small. Your donation will allow us tutors to remain employed, offer free and low-cost services, put on productions like this web series, and reach out to families nationwide. With your help, we can tackle the academic challenges of our students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. As a bonus, we can improve our communities in the process. Support us today. Send your donation by Cash App to $ASATS2013, by PayPal or Venmo to @ASATS2013, or by Zelle to success@astepaheadtutoringservices.com. For our Facebook Live viewers, you can also send us a star. Your support means a lot to us. Please note, we're a for-profit company. We're not a charity. Your donation may not be tax deductible. Please consult a tax professional.
All right, you guys, that's it for the episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. And now I am signing off. Bye.